A tourist visa from the Guinea-Bissau consulate here for 25,000 sefa. I originally thought it was 20,000, but that guidebook is really bit out of date. So 25,000 sefa. In my currency, that's 35 pounds sterling. So if you flew into Guinea-Bissau and you had no visa, your visa on arrival would cost a lot more. So when traveling, try to make your way down to Zigunchor and get your visa here. Don't get your visa in Dakar or Banjul because it'll cost much more. It's just so much cheaper here in Zigunchor. So now, making my way to the Gare Routire, the first set platter to Guinea-Bissau. It's nearly 10 o'clock. I left my hotel before 9 and got inside the building before 9, so I had to wait around for the consul to arrive. Nice people, spoke to some Bissauians who travel to and fro from Senegal and Bissau. It's gonna be an okay day, even though it's like cloudy. I mean, I've got my bag protection, but I don't have my umbrella. But there's still wet roads from yesterday, so now I have to get on. It's after 10 o'clock. Downpouring of rain just started after I left the consul general. But luckily, I found shelter in this van that's going to Guinea-Bissau. And surprisingly enough, Christmas decorations are already up in September. Look at that. So, it's going to cost me a few thousand franc. Hopefully it's not going to overcharge me like the other guy did in the middle of Senegal on Saturday, wanting 40,000 franc just to go, me on my own in a van like this, to Karang on the border with the Gambia. So finally leaving behind Zigunchor, heading south. First stop will be the border town, which surprisingly enough is called Santo Domingo, similar to the capital of the Dominican Republic. So we've got a cenotaph monument right there in the roundabout. It's a major feature of this town. But I didn't do any sightseeing yesterday. I just had to pick up a few things and get myself ready for tomorrow. I hear the roads are going to be quite muddy all the way to Bissau, so it's quite good. They have closed windows, otherwise we're getting hit by mud. Just like how last week I was getting hit by sand. Google Maps says it will take 3.5 hours to get to Bissau, but they're not including the whole border crossing. And they don't know the roads aren't really that good. TIA, this is Africa. We're in African time. So into Guinea-Bissau, my 108th country, had to pay 5,000 as an entry fee, despite the fact I paid 25,000 sefa in total. The visa, instant visa, so it's just tea money from it's only 7 quid in my currency. I mean, in these parts of the world, they always tend to charge like a stamping fee. Like, mate, I pay this much money for a visa and you expect to pay me for a stamp? When will they learn? But then again, you won't believe this cost from a flight from Portugal to Bissau is at least over 400, 500 quid return. Looking at flights, if I want to fly back to Lisbon this week, they're asking 400 quid. I'm like, so I have to go all the way back to Senegal to get a flight. But it's not really cheaper if you fly in Bissau. It's quite expensive no matter if it is from Dakar or if it is from Conakry or if it is from Lisbon. It's just, I guess that's the way it is even here in West Africa. I mean, I'll have to fly into Conakry in a few months' time because it's like £400 return from Paris, but then Sierra Leone, Liberia, they're all asking 500, 600, 700 plus from London or Brussels. I mean, I could actually continue on to Guinea-Conakry on this trip, but time's running out. I gotta be back home in London, get back to work. But I feel like I've done enough this year. 9 new African countries to my tally. All good, 4 trips to Africa. Could squeeze in a 5th if I go to Algeria at the end of the year. right along by the roads. Really muddy, they're just dirt roads in this part of West Africa. I didn't think a little mini buggy could handle these roads. It's going to be, I think, another 2.5 hours till I get to Bissau, which probably in the afternoon, so it's a good time instead of like arriving at dusk. But roads are a bit better now. You know, we've left the muddy roads. There's a customs check at Sao Domingo, and they didn't go through my stuff, but I was expecting them to, because I'm far enough to roll. So I'll have to make my way back to Zigunchor on Thursday. I'm pretty sure if I leave early, I can be able to make it as far as the Gambia. So, country number 108, Guinea-Bissau. I'm supposed to come here in 2021, but the impression I got from being scammed on the border with Senegal and Gambia made me come home early. But then I thought, look, why didn't I just head south to Guinea-Bissau at the start of my trip rather than to Dakar? Because Mauritania would have been much more longer to get to, and then I would have had to go all the way back down from Mauritania to the Gambia and then on to Guinea-Bissau. But then this was the time of COVID and the Moroccan border wasn't open, so I couldn't really fly out of Morocco or into Morocco. Just really like tough times back then. There was all these like regulations. So glad it's all over now. But I still need to visit the monkey park in the Gambia. So I've got like 2 days here in Bissau. I can look at a cathedral, a mosque. There's a fort that's built by Portuguese, but unfortunately the military run it, so they don't let people inside unless I get a bit lucky and ask permission. And maybe I'll just go inside or not, it all just depends. But a lot of people have said bad things about Guinea-Bissau, and this guy at the ferry was pestering me to be his guide. Like, he basically was asking if I wanted to guide to Guinea-Bissau, and I'm like, look dude, I've been in 107 countries in the world and I've never ever required a guide. The only countries I ever need a guide for is like North Korea, Bhutan, and maybe Libya, post-Gaddafi. Pre-Gaddafi, my surrogate auntie went to Libya and she needed to be on the guide, but that was typical back then. Good history about Guinea-Bissau. It was colonized by the Portuguese in like 1500, like one of the first early settlements of Portuguese in Africa. Then I remember the Portuguese all end up colonizing Angola, Sao Tome, Azores, Cabo Verde, and Mozambique. Guinea-Bissau did not become independent until 1975, and there was a war going on prior to that against the Portuguese from like the 1950s. The Bissau rebels got aid from the Eastern Bloc and also the Sud. And then after the independence, there wasn't much democracy until the 1990s, and then there was a civil war going on. There's been a coups, so it's okay to travel to Bissau right now. But I was warned about going to the southern part of Senegal because of the conflict. It's still going on. I got off again, but nothing bad has happened. My phone's been pinging on again, off again, saying welcome to Senegal, welcome to Guinea-Bissau. This is different from the telecommunication towers between the two. It's kind of funny that when you get a message to say, oh, you're in a new country, and you're not even in the country at all, you haven't even crossed the border. It's like you just pick up signals from neighboring countries. So the vehicle is driving east, and the Senegalese border is roughly 10 or so kilometers that way. Then it's going to get turned south to head into Bissau, which will be on the coastline. It's about 1 1:30 right now in the afternoon. Let's see, it's 3 o'clock right now. I've been on the road since 11 o'clock today, just leaving Zigunchor. Says it's another 40 kilometers to Bissau. Google Maps just taken out, but well, Google Maps is an intake. Is the quality of the roads here. So it goes from good to bad to worse to bad to good, back and forth. Like about 10 miles ago, we crossed a bridge, really good paved one, but then just back to the awful roads again. I'm not surprised that I'm going to have to do this trip all again in a few days. All the way back to Zigunchor, all the way back to Gare Routire, all the way back to Kerrang, all the way back to Metalhead to get home. I mean, if you're being flies from Barcelona to both Dakar and Jewel, but right now the fares for going back one way is quite expensive. Instead I would have had to wait for another week, and then I would be able to get back to Barcelona for 200, but I've only spent like 140 to get back to France, and then 40 quid to get back to London. So I really want to miss these flights, and there's no way I'm going to be flying out of Bissau. Maybe I'll fly back to Bissau in a couple of years, or next year, to take on the road to the Conakry, and go all the way back to Ghana. It's mind-boggling what I'm seeing in this part of Africa, as I am in sub-Saharan Africa, and it's much greener when you look at it on the map. But I've not seen any tall buildings since I left Dakar. There's hardly any tall buildings in the Gambia, even in Banjul. But I mean, the roads that I've travelled from Banjul to Bissau have just all been rural. I've never seen any tall buildings or skyscrapers, something like that. And like from that big town in Senegal, Zigunchor, all the way to Bissau, you just see people, tiny shanty towns along the way, hardly much civilization, just green mangrove swamps, I mean, small brick houses like that, huts like that. Wow, just goats on the road. You don't see this kind of stuff when you're in Europe, but this is Africa. Not travelled much in the Lusophone world. You know, I grew up in Australia, and we had a Lusophone neighbour north of us, Timor-Leste, that did not become independent until 2002, all thanks to Cold War bullshit. Now, the next Portuguese part of the world I went to was Macau. Now, Macau was handed back to China in 1999, but they still maintain a lot of Portuguese traditions. Some people still speak Portuguese, and there's even like a new language called like Macanese, which is like a combination of like Chinese and Portuguese. And there are a few hundred Macauans who do live in Portugal itself, and there's lots of Portuguese who live in Macau, I believe. Then I finally went to Portugal the first time in 2018 in Faro. Mate, that's kind of a bit boring, but there's beaches. I eventually went to Lisbon earlier this year for like 11 hours on the way to Accra, and then the funny thing was, on my flight to Accra was going to Sao Tome and Principe. Now I thought about going there, but I wanted to go to Burkina Faso, but I will go there someday. And then I went to Brazil 5 long years ago, and I went to an interesting part of Brazil called State near the border of France, and I was there for nearly a whole week. So Guinea-Bissau is the first Lusophone nation in Africa that I've been to. I still have to go to Mozambique, which I didn't go to 2 years ago when I was in Southern Africa because I was being a bit lazy, and I was a bit worried about bribery and all that crap like this experience in Senegal. But here I am in Guinea-Bissau, and who knows, in a couple of months' time I will be maybe going to Cape Verde or Sao Tome or even Angola. There's a nice painting right there of Amarillo Cabral. Apologize if I'm saying the name wrong, but He actually died like 1973. He was assassinated when he was living in Guinea-Conakry. And even the Portuguese tried to overthrow the Guinean government in like Operation Green Sea. Look it up on Wikipedia. Oh my god, I just paid 5,000 francs for a double burger with egg and egg and chips inside, also a side of chips, and then 1,000 for half a tiny bottle of water, which probably would have cost me maybe 500 francs on the street. So yeah, like one of the only bag of waters you get in Africa, they're only 100 francs. So most Western foods in West Africa are kind of like overpriced. I mean, omelette and chips will roughly cost you 1,500 francs. That's maybe 2 or 3 pounds in my currency. Because you gotta remember, the franc is pegged to, it's like 660 francs to a euro, and then a pound sterling is at least 700. So it works differently for me because I have pound sterlings and all. But it's quite wise just to travel with euros in this part of the world, but then once you get to Sierra Leone and Liberia, they prefer US dollars. I mean, you can still travel with US dollars, but you won't get much more of exchange rate for, I mean, you'll get a little bit less than US dollars or than euros. I'm in Guinea-Bissau city centre. That's the Independence Monument. They put a black star on top of Portuguese colonial monuments, and behind that is the presidential palace, which I thought was actually bombed out, but it's been rebuilt. Now over here we have a Portuguese cathedral. Yes, that's dating back to the colonial times, because Christianity is much more popular here than in neighboring Senegal. There's like maybe 25% Christians in this country, and mostly Roman Catholic, as you know, Portugal was a Roman Catholic country, and so the Portuguese imported Roman Catholicism to this part of the world.